the show on Facebook. Facebook.com/The Marc Cox Show.
She's the only one that I've been dreaming of. Maybe someday she will be all mine. I want to tell her that I love her so. I thrill with her every touch.
But look, we have got to get control of mandatory spending. That is the driver of our debt. We need to focus on that and get control over mandatory spending quickly.
Steve Scalise there talking about mandatory spending. And I've referred to it before by the more common term of non-discretionary spending. These are things that are locked up in Congress that normal bills, particularly continuing resolutions, but normal bills that go through the House and the Senate can't affect the funding, and it's like 2/3 of the federal budget. So I'm glad to hear Steve Scalise say that he wants to cut those things, but I've heard a lot of people claim that. I heard Paul Ryan claim that, and then he turned around and passed a budget that gave the president everything he wanted for the military and gave the Democrats everything they wanted without any spending restraints whatsoever. And to me, that is absolutely crazy. I don't know.
You know, I'm disappointed with the budget. The president campaigned religiously and during the debates talking about how bad the deficit was, that we need to bring it down. We're approaching $20 trillion. I'm disappointed, but like I always say, it's always easy to be courageous and talk about the deficit and all that type of stuff when you're not the one that's responsible for counting votes and whipping votes. And there just aren't the votes to get anything done unless you have Democratic votes. I mean, how do you get past that?
Yeah,
we had to give them what they want, or the budget doesn't pass.
So they're holding the security of the nation hostage to fund social programs. The president, his budget doesn't do everything I'd want it to do, but what it does do is go in and slash spending in some of these things where there's massive fraud, and it reduces the size of the EPA and some of these agencies. These are things he campaigned on. But, you know, they'll tell you in Congress it's DOA because there's no way the left's ever going to go along with this.
So what do you do?
What do you do?
Yeah, I mean,
you vote them all out. You vote them all out, and you impose term limits. If we have to do a constitutional vote to do that, Congress, let's do it.
But then it gets to what we talk about all the time. You talk about vote them all out. You're not Republican. Susan Collins from Maine, get her out of there. But the people up there aren't hardcore Republicans like we are, conservatives in Missouri or in the South. They're liberal Republicans. So they like her. I mean, you take the risk of, if you do primary or get her out there and get a more conservative person, then you may end up giving the seat to a Democrat.
Right. Well, I guess you might, but I mean, ultimately, you've got to take that risk because we have got to start getting more people involved who understand that we spend, and I got in trouble for saying this one time, but we spend like drunken sailors. Sailor got offended when I said that one time. So you spend like a wino. I mean, I don't know. You get the money and it goes right back out of your pocket. We can't keep doing that. We just can't. Hey, so back to this issue of the marijuana bill here. I let you read part of this, and I'm going to talk to Louis Reed about it coming up in a minute. But folks, this bill does so much more than just they've already reduced the penalties for having a little bit of pot. This bill goes a lot further than that. And what they've tried to do with all their whereases and whatnots in it is try to convince people, as you read through it, that somehow eliminating marijuana enforcement by local police would reduce the possibility of marijuana buyers being exposed to opiates. Well, whoever wrote this was smoking something. Yeah. That's what I'm convinced.
I think they would have made a better argument that maybe if we have less enforcement of marijuana and drugs like that, then we could have more police on the ground to try to stem some of these murders.
But it goes
That's
further.
a better argument than what they're talking about.
It goes further than this. it still would make it okay for police to arrest somebody if you're under the age of 21 or you provide marijuana to somebody under the age of 21. But if a police officer is accused of trying to arrest someone and they later find out that instead of 2.1 ounces, they had 1.96, under this ordinance, that officer could face a disciplinary action by the city of St. Louis. So it goes so far as to penalize members of law enforcement if they try to seize or prosecute somebody or arrest somebody for marijuana. Oh, well, that's what it does, even though it's federally illegal and illegal in the state of Missouri.
Well, this is the same Board of Aldermen that passed a proclamation for a guy that's running away from the police and putting people's lives in danger. And
that's very true. So, well, like I said, we'll get Louis Reed in here. I'm going to ask him. I don't know if he supports it or not. I didn't ask him that before he came in. However, it is going to be voted on by a committee tonight and then go before the full Board of Aldermen if it gets out of that committee.
Good luck on getting a straight answer out of Mr. Reed.
Why do you say that?
Because he's just says a whole lot of nothing whenever I hear him on the radio or
you should
interviews.
Hang around in here and we'll talk to him when he comes in. We will. I want to talk to him about.
He is the soundbite queen.
Some of the problems that they've had in Colorado and some of these other states where they've legalized it. This bill even mentions those other states by name and claims that crime's down and all this stuff, which is not what you read in the reports out of Colorado. The illnesses and intoxicated driving and all these things are up in all of these states, and we're just asking for more trouble in the city of St. Louis.
And the main thing is it didn't get rid of the illegal drug trade because it just made drugs more expensive to buy them legally when you could just go down in the hood and buy marijuana cheaper. So it didn't eliminate the illegal drug trade like they promised.
Oh, no, of course not. In fact, there was a study the other day in USA Today that Colorado has one of the USA's worst drug problems. Now, that didn't break it down just by marijuana. It had a lot of illegal drugs involved in that, but marijuana is certainly part of it. I mean, they've done is reduce the threshold and basically give it a stamp of approval to all the kids and everything else.
And this fentanyl that's going around, I mean, that's what Prince overdosed on, but, you're reading people being arrested in the newspaper, having these fentanyl pills with them, and you hear these busts with that drug, and it's like 50 times more powerful than morphine. So it's like scary that drugs like that are out on the street.
Yeah, very much so. Chris, thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
You bet. Appreciate that. You had a great interview with Senator Blunt on the Weekend Report this weekend. Yeah, it was. Nice work there. We'll look forward to maybe we'll see you on Friday when you're in here again.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
God willing.